Sorry that I'm keeping you between a good time with the last session. I'm Karim. I'm from Luge Capital. Hang on. There we go. Before we start, I thought we'd get to know each other a little bit. I will introduce myself in a second, but before I do that, I want to take a show of hands. How many of you have heard of stablecoins? Nice. Well, wait, hang on, don't put your hand down. Keep them up if you know how they work. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go back one. Keep them up if you've transacted with stablecoins before. A few. How many of you have programmed with stablecoins before? All right. Okay, so that's me getting to know this audience a little bit better. Let me introduce myself. So, who am I? Why is some VC standing up on stage talking to you about payments and stablecoins? Well, I come from a few years of having been in this space. I started off as a software developer writing code many, many years ago. For those of you who are from Canada, you might know Interact's e-transfer product. I was one of the original developers behind that code. I then moved to a company called Redknee, where I used to design and architect telecom networks in East Africa and Western Europe, often where we would use airtime credit as a form of payment, moving money from one person to another. I then moved to a company called Research in Motion that changed its name to BlackBerry. They used to make phones with keyboards a long time ago. Long time ago. And I helped design what are called NFC payments. That's this concept of tapping your phone to pay. This was before Apple Pay was a thing, before Android Pay was a thing. We designed some of the original tech at BlackBerry. I moved on to a company called Zoom. We did cross-border payments, helping people send money to mom and dad in India, the Philippines, and Mexico. Took that company public, and then ultimately I sold that business to PayPal in 2015. And then I started this firm with my partner, David, and of course, as Luge, we've invested in a bunch of different payments companies like Loop and Cybrid, Number, Till, and Pluto. So we've been in this world for a little while. So that's kind of who I am and why I'm talking to you about payments. Let's see if this works. All right, so let me tell you a little story. And I'll say we've got two small kids at home. And so everything in our house is about superheroes and superhero stories. So we're going to do a little quick one here today. This is inspired by my kids. And it's a little story about rigidity versus flexibility, of legacy and modernization, of stress and stress-free. Let's go. Meet Maria. Maria is originally from the Philippines. She lives in Toronto, and she's a nurse. She sends money back home every 2 weeks to support mom and dad so they can buy groceries. Now, back at Zoom, we were a cross-border payments company. Our job was easy to describe, but very hard to do. It was our job to take $350 from Maria's account and deliver it to her mom's hands in Manila reliably, quickly, every time. That was difficult, but we worked relentlessly every day against this mission. But there was a problem. Behind the scenes, in order for us to do that, we had to pre-fund a bunch of bank accounts in other parts of the world. So we'd send a bunch of money to Manila every day, and we'd have to figure out whether we had the right demand to accommodate. That leads us to Act 1, the float problem. On a long weekend, We had a team that was rising with stress as the day continued. Would we be able to send enough cash to our accounts in the Philippines? Would the Nostro Vostro accounts settle in time? And of course, everything needed to be figured out really, really fast, and banking hours made it impossible for us to top up over the weekend. And of course, the villain, the 3 o'clock cutoff, was always lurking. That leads us to Act 2. 2:57 p.m. on Thursday before a long weekend. Peak stress for the team. Could we get all of the transactions through in time? Because once 3 o'clock hit, the window was closed and all transactions over the weekend would be stopped. And so when Maria was on her way home from work on Thursday afternoon at 5 o'clock and sends her money, she doesn't realize that it's not going to get there in time. Act 3. Super Stable comes in and saves the day. So Maria wakes up on Saturday, realizes the funds haven't arrived at her mom's account, and she starts to panic. And then, of course, Super Stable swoops in and says, "Don't worry, have no fear. I will get the money to your mom." And so Maria spins up a new stablecoin wallet, funds it with her debit card. With a click of a button, she can send USDC to her parents in Manila. They can walk into the grocery store and buy their groceries. Maria breathes a sigh of relief. Her parents can have groceries that weekend. So what is this stablecoin thing that has saved Maria? So from the show of hands, many of you already know or heard of the concept of stablecoins. It's this idea of a digital token that represents some fixed amount of fiat real currency on a one-to-one basis that doesn't really lose value over time. And so I'm taking a risk with this next analogy because I'm not advocating gambling. But one easy way to think about stablecoins is to think of them as casino chips. How many of you have been to Vegas? Right. Well, if you walk into a Vegas casino like the Bellagio, and you go to the cashier and you give $1,000, you get a bunch of chips. Now, those chips will maintain their value no matter what. You can use them at the blackjack table. You can put them in your pocket. You can bring them back to Montreal, and you can keep them in your home here for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then you know that the next time you go to Vegas, you can walk into the Bellagio and exchange that chip for real currency that you put on the table many years prior. So you can think of stablecoins in a similar sort of way. It's a digital representation of a real currency that maintains its value. So let's look at the traditional way of how money moves. The reason why all of this complication sits behind the scenes when Maria needs to send money to mom and dad in Manila. So SWIFT, I think many of you have probably heard of the concept of a SWIFT wire. So SWIFT is not actually a payment rail. It's a messaging protocol that tells different banks what to do. It's a bit of an orchestration messaging system. And when you send money to another country, what's actually happening is funds move between what are called Nostro Vostro accounts, and they're being netted off one by one, and every bank along the way gets a cut of that transaction. This is why when you send a wire, it sometimes feels like you're sending money into a black hole until it arrives at the other end, and why it's so expensive, because all of these banks are involved. There could be easily 2-3 banks or more involved in a transaction. And all of this is subject to what I call the smoke breaks. That is long weekends, banking holidays, business hours, things like that, the smoke break. Why is this so complicated? Well, this is how it's been for decades and decades. And different countries speak different money languages. So in Brazil, there's PIX. In India, there's UPI. In the UK, there's faster payments. In Canada, we have Interac. And the thing is that none of these local payment rails talk to each other. That's the problem. So what if we could all just speak the same language? If we had one common protocol for all of this so it would be easy to send money, how would that work? Well, if you think about the blockchain, various types of blockchains, this is the universal money language that I've been alluding to. And so in a world where fiat is still the ruler, you can have funds come in and out of stablecoin, use stablecoin as the vehicle of value. And all of this can be done with this concept of the stablecoin sandwich. We come from fiat into stablecoin, and then stablecoin into fiat, all very, very quickly. And no, you don't need to build any of this yourself. We actually have a portfolio company called Cybrid that has built all of this infrastructure for you, so you can just plug it in, and away you go. And with this infrastructure, of course, Maria can send money fast, cheap, anywhere, anytime. There is no other payment rail that exists today that has all of these attributes. The best part, no smoke breaks. This isn't just hype. Stable coins are on the rise. And today, stablecoin volume sits at about half of what Visa transacts. $8.3 trillion in the last 12 months compared to Visa at 16. And this isn't a wave that is coming. This is a wave that's already here and is continuing to grow. And we've got many, many financial institutions who are already jumping in with both feet. You've got JP Morgan, Fiserv, PayPal, MoneyGram, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citi, all institutions that have either launched a stablecoin themselves or are exploring stablecoin opportunities in a big way, enough to make the headlines. So what's the opportunity for Canadian FIs? Well, you saw in the example with Maria, this is a new way to offer a better modern form of payment and a better user experience. Faster, cheaper, always on, and programmable. And this isn't just some theoretical science fair project. This is happening right now. So today, 95% of all stablecoins are USD based. We don't yet have a dominant CAD-based stablecoin. And so we need to act now, or we're going to risk potentially losing our payment rails in Canada to US-based issuers who are continuing to consume more and more of these transactions. What about the regs? Everybody always asks about regulations. What about them? Today, Canada does not have a fully defined regulatory regime that governs the way stablecoins work, but that's okay, because it will come. And the US recently passed the Genius Act, which provides a good framework, a bit of a precedent for us to use as a model. And the regs will come. It's our job to advocate for them, but we shouldn't wait. So what needs to happen next? First things first, take a deep breath. I know that blockchain and cryptocurrencies, stablecoins are scary words. But you have to understand the nuances in order for you to progress forward. The next thing is to dip your toe in the water. As financial institutions, think about very simple payments-related use case where you can implement stablecoins just to see how they work. Build a level of familiarity before you jump in with both feet. And then the next thing is it's our job, like I said, to advocate for regulatory standards. You know, the purpose of regulations is to make sure that our society is held safe and transactions are done properly. We are following anti-money laundering rules and terrorist financing rules. As long as we approach it with that philosophy in mind, we'll be fine. And the opportunity is massive. So today, every year, about $850 million worth of funds leaves Canada and goes to another country through these sort of friends and family remittances, the type of transactions that Maria sends to her family every 2 weeks, 850 million. And if you zoom out and you include all cross-border payments globally for any purpose, that number is 1 quadrillion, 15 zeros. The opportunity is big. So if we zoom back in to Maria, it's easy to see that every payment has a story behind it. There's a sender, there's a receiver. And in the case of Maria, she sends money back home. And she's taken on this responsibility to support her family. And she has enough stress in order to make that happen. So it's our job to do as much as we can to make those payments stress-free. Thank you.